This is a Flipping Junkie Podcast, episode 17. Welcome to the Flipping Junkie Podcast. My name is Danny Johnson, former software developer turned house flipper, flipping hundreds of houses. Each week, we bring you interviews, strategies, stories, and motivation to help you get started flipping houses and on your way to becoming your own boss and achieving financial freedom. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's get to it. Hey, welcome back to the Flipping Junkie Podcast. We've got our first episode of the series for the Flipping Houses series for the podcast. And, we're starting from the beginning. We're talking about mindset, goal setting, getting started with little money, getting started with almost no money, and what to do to start out and build the right mindset and foundation for this business so that you can become a success at it. And today we're going to be talking about mindset and the 4 pillars of power. I've got Brant Phillips on the show today. It's going to be a great show. And if you've got ideas for the series or, be sure to subscribe on iTunes so that you know of each new episode they come up, because it's going to go in order and flow really well now. And we're going to have very specific episodes targeted to a specific topic within that series. So I'm really looking forward to it. And be sure to go to facebook.com/flippingjunkie. You can leave comments and ask questions. And if you want to find out more about a certain topic that's going to be coming up or get more in detail into something, you can check in there and do that. We've also got an Instagram at instagram.com/flippingjunkie, where my wife, Melissa, is posting pictures of rehabs and stuff like that. So be sure to check that out. Today, we've got Brant Phillips on the show. Brant's a full-time real estate investor, business owner, entrepreneur, author, and speaker. He's been featured on Fox News. He hosts local seminars and is even being considered to star in one of those Flipping Houses TV shows. Brant's a proverbial rags to riches story. While living in an apartment and having no money, he was able to purchase his first investment property on a credit card. He went on to buy 10 properties that same year with no money down, and with only a few years, he's rehabbed hundreds of homes. And he owns a portfolio of rental properties worth millions and routinely flips houses for fast cash. Brant's a really great guy, honestly, and be fascinated to know he was also a former police officer who prides himself on integrity and serving others. He's a husband, father of 3, and enjoys helping and teaching people to experience the freedom and success he has achieved through successfully investing in real estate. And I'm really glad that Brant's on the show with me today. I've talked to him here and there for a little bit, and really am looking forward to find out more about him and what he's doing, because he's doing some different things, some stuff that I haven't really seen anybody else out there doing with regard to coaching and things like that, and I really like what he set up. All right, so how you doing, Brant?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, thanks for being on and taking the time to do it. Hey, let's start with finding out a little bit more. I'm curious about how you got started. What got you interested and fired up in flipping houses? And, walk us through your story.
Yeah, sure. So I was like, a lot of people out there, maybe some of your listeners, and I was in law enforcement for about 7 years before I went to the corporate world. And that's where, I'm assuming some of your listeners are at. And I was kind of stuck in this corporate world, or felt stuck. And I really, to put it lightly, disliked what I was doing for a living, and just made up my mind. I told my wife, end of 2006, I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And she said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. And so I began to do a little research, and like a lot of people, I was drawn to real estate. And so I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I said, I'm gonna become a real estate investor, is what I told her. And we lived in an apartment, by the way. We had no money. It's not that we were, not good stewards with what we had, but we were in a place like we were somewhat newlyweds. We paid off our bills, paid off student loans. We had our first child at that time, and we just didn't have any money. And she was like, that's great, I support you, but how are you going to do that? Because we don't have any money.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know, I haven't figured that part out yet, but I'm like determined to figure it out. And so long story short, 2007, I utilized, we did have good credit. You could actually buy houses with good credit at that time. And I bought 10 houses in 2007 while I was working my full-time job, and did the same thing in 2008, about 10 more. Began using private money partnerships actually in 2008. 2009, I continued buying properties. I got up to about 25 properties in April or May of 2009. I quit my job. I went full-time in real estate investing and really just being an entrepreneur. I began flipping houses or renting houses, and began doing some construction services for other investors, basically just running our crews and doing the remodels with my company, which is now known as Invest Home Pro. Yeah, doing just some coaching and just being an entrepreneur and really just, creating freedom. And that's what I really wanted. Like, people's like, why'd you get into real estate? It's like, I enjoy houses and flipping and renting, and we're building houses now, and I enjoy all that. But for me, it was like freedom. Like, that was like my main focus. And just to be able to leave my job, kind of control my destiny, control my, my income and things like that. And I was a little bit, I didn't map that out, as good as I could have the first years. Even sometimes we're in that predicament where I still work a lot, and partly it's because I just love what I do, but partly it's just, it's kind of that trap, like, be clear on what you want. My first goal was like freedom. So I was like, I have to quit my job. And so I worked more than I should have in the beginning, but that's what I wanted, man. Like, I wanted to be free from the corporate chains, if you will.
Yeah, I hear you. And that's what it takes, right? It takes the hard work. If you buy into the whole, real estate investing is a get rich quick scheme that doesn't take a whole lot of effort, you're mistaken.
And, definitely.
And
the labor of love.
Yeah, and the way you talk about getting started and just knowing, like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. Like, one way or the other, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to do it. And
yeah, it was like, for me, it was like it was a mindset thing. And I tell people, when we were living in that little apartment, I went to my first boot camp, went to a training event, and signed up for some very inexpensive coaching, but I got some mentorship and got a little education. And January of 2007, when I first started, I went to my first event. I bought my first house that same month. I went to the store and I bought like a poster board. It was a really cheesy thing, man, but I bought this poster board, and I got a Sharpie, and I drew like 10 squares, and I hung it on the wall. I called it my office. It was like I had a little desk in the area of our living room in our apartment. And my wife's like, "You're not putting this poster board up on the wall." And it was like 10 squares on this white poster board. She was like, "You're not putting that up on the wall." I'm like, "I love you, babe, but this poster board is going up on the wall, because every time I buy a house, like, I'm gonna fill in a square."
nice.
And like, I'm buying 10 houses this year. And I'll tell you what, man, like, that poster board drove me, man, because like I had deals fall out. I had deals like with title issues. It was like daily reminder to grind. And I bought my 10th house like the last week of December that year.
Awesome.
And really, like, that poster board helped teach me some lessons, about mindset and goal setting and just all that kind of stuff.
So is that still there? Well, yeah, obviously you moved, but did you move and like hang it up again? Or I would keep it at least somewhere. I would keep it.
I have it. I saw it not long ago. Well, about a year or so ago. I should have framed the thing, but no, it's not hanging up anymore.
Yeah. So getting into mindset, that's what we want to focus on today. And you sent me a graphic that I'll have available on the show notes page at flippingjunkie.com/17, where people will be able to download that graphic for the 4 pillars of power, which you have labeled as mindset, skill set, environment, and accountability. Do you want to start with maybe, how you came up with the 4 pillars and then walk us through each one of them?
Yeah, so, like I've seen, I've been to so many programs and through coaching programs and masterminds and all types of things. And I've seen and experienced, what works and what doesn't work. And, a lot of times what I've seen play out for people, and I have a lot of conversations with people who are just getting started or wanting to get started or on the fence. And, with Invest Home Pro, with providing the construction services for investors, like we work firsthand with a lot of investors. And, I see where the investors that come in that, do a deal and then they do multiple deals and they create a sustainable business, and those who come in are on the fence and they maybe do one or two and it doesn't sustain. And so I began kind of researching, like, why is it that some people create success and why don't they? And as a coach and a mentor as well, like the other thing that caused me, I guess you'd say, to begin doing this research was, back in the day, several years ago, I was doing some of the big hotel, dog and pony real estate guru shows, and kind of behind the curtains, I was talking to a real estate guru, and this conversation came up about the success rate of students, like people who come to these events, and he threw out a number like 5%. And like it bothered me. It bothered me because at this one particular event, like I was the real estate guy and I was going to be responsible for coaching people. I'm like, 5% is not acceptable. And they're just talking about percentage like people who come through the doors. And that bothered me, and I stopped doing big events. I'm like, I don't want to be, affiliated with that. And another thing that happened around that time was I went to a boot camp my very first year, and then a few years later, I put on an event and I did a group flip. Like we picked 3 people from the audience, and we did a flip with them. And one of the ladies who was in the group flip was in the very first event that I went to, my first year investing. And this was 3 years later, and she was coming to my events and had never done a deal until she did one with me at that time. And so, like, it saddened me a little bit. I'm like, I've seen you around for like 3 years and you haven't done anything. You haven't taken action. So those couple of things triggered in me, like, all right, what is it really that creates success? And I saw like most programs, will help you with mindset a little bit. Like it's generally in the form of motivation. There'll be some energy there, and like they'll try to pump you up, give you a little mindset, and that's great, and that's necessary. And it's, our jobs as entrepreneurs to continually sharpen our mindset, and that's great, and that's most programs have that. And the second thing that most programs have are they teach you the tools and the skill sets. Like this is just information, general education, and that's great. Like we need that too, but that's what most programs provide. And that's what you can literally Google. You can Google search anything you want about real estate investing. They can listen to your podcast. They can read my book and get the skill sets. And that's all fine and dandy. But if you only stick to skill sets and mindsets, like you're not going to have a great success rate. You may create some success, but in my opinion, it's not sustainable, and you're not going to create like great, massive success. So started looking at what I was doing and some of, people that I'm involved with in masterminds and groups and things like that. And I found like there's really a couple of other pieces that are absolutely critical. And what, I don't even say the 1%, but like 80-20 rule, like 20% of the people, possibly even less, are applying these things, and that's why they're getting 80% of the results. And those two other pieces are the environment that they're in, and also accountability. And what am I talking about? Environment. Sometimes it's physical environments that help to change things. I've been in a mastermind. I've been in several masterminds, some like in Dallas, and I live in Houston right now. In California, I think I was in California 6 times last year for a mastermind. So physically leaving my house and being at a different place, like my masterminds they're called Breakthrough at the Beach. and we're literally like, it's on the beach, like down at the beach by the ocean, like just something changes in that environment. But also just in your day-to-day life, like who's in your circle? Like what type of environment of people are you with? Like, are you surrounding yourself? And one of the, and that easiest analogies that I can always think of is this is like, whenever, if you have children, you're like, you want to make sure that you hope that your children, or you want to steer them towards making good choices with, the friends that they pick. What environment, what cliques are they running with at school? Because you and I both know that environment that our children pick is going to influence their behavior and their results in their life somehow or some way. And right. So it's the same thing in business. It's like, who is in your environment? Like, who's in your corner? And the other critical piece that's kind of intertwined with your environment is accountability. And to me, like, this is probably the most critical piece. And this is where I've seen where if you have this, like your chance of success, I won't even say chance, like your odds of success are so much more greatly increased versus those who don't. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about, like, you and I both know, like, real estate's not that terribly difficult. It's like a bunch of little steps and little things you have to do on a day-to-day basis, including building your team to do some of these things, and just do them over and over and over and over and over again, and getting better at them and improving them, making them more efficient. But it's just, it's basically boils down to, doing some work every day. And the problem is a lot of people know what to do. They just don't do it. And a lot of times it just boils down to accountability. Like, they don't have anyone holding them accountable, kind of pushing them and, kicking their ass a little bit, if you don't mind me saying that, whenever, like, they try to give up on themselves, or like whenever they're taking it easy. It's like, no, dude, like, get up, man. Yeah. Like, get back up. Yeah. I know what you want. Your goals are right here. Like, I know what your goals are. Like, dude, get up. Stop taking it easy on yourself. Like, I get it. Like, you took a couple little bumps, took a little bruises, but get back up, man, and keep going, and just, like, pushing each other.
Right, and also to force them to not spin their wheels on the small things, majoring in the minors, when they should be focused on the bigger things that get them toward their goals. And accountability is big with that too. So somebody telling you, hey, why are you designing your business card for 3 days when you should be out there putting bandit signs out, or whatever else. So
yeah, man, like, what's going to lead to dollars? Like, I get it. Like, like, that's a pretty sweet logo you've created there, but, like, you've been working on that thing for like 2 months, man. Like, when are you going to do a deal?
Hey, I've been there.
I got a student, and I started working with him 2 months ago, and, he just closed on his first deal 2 days ago, and he's been taking action, because, like, I've been there with him every single week. We meet, create action steps, like, all right, what are we doing this week? This, and this. I'm like, okay, are you going to commit to that? Yep. So when we show up next week, you're going to have that done? Yep. Promise? Yep. Okay, go do it. And each week he comes back, I did this, and this, and this. All right, what'd you learn? What's on the agenda for next week? Let's keep moving the ball forward. And he's done that. And that's, to me, it's just the most critical piece.
Right. So have the goals clearly defined, exactly what they want, why they want those goals, what they want to achieve, and why. And that's going to be the focus of the next episode. Episode 18 of the podcast will be an episode about goal setting. I'll definitely come back next week for that. But so once, Brant, once they've got the goals and they set up the environment so that they're around people that are like-minded, that are also focused on success and changing their lives, changing themselves, and then helping those people to hold them accountable and to force them to do the bigger things. So what can some people do maybe that, maybe can't afford a coach or a program? I mean, that's something you can do with your wife or your husband or, family or friends or something like that maybe also have the positive mindset. I mean, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. So, the 4 pillars of mindset, skill set, environment and accountability, they really apply to all areas of life. It's not just a business conversation. And as you know, and some listeners may or may not, like my program Breakthrough at the Beach, like it's a program that's focused really on creating results in all areas of your life. So you can use this lesson and to create other results. Like, for example, I allow my kids to hold me accountable in certain areas. And kids are really good, really good at this when you empower them with that ability. And so, what does that look like? So I've got, I'm a little extreme on the way I do things, but that's kind of how I am. So I've got something on my daily calendar. It's called Power Hour. It's generally between 4 and 5 or 5 and 6. And Power Hour is like, shut off your phone, get off the computer. Like, let's just do whatever they want to do. A lot of times we go out and throw the football with two of my boys. I've got 3 boys. One's just a baby. And, we'll go ride bikes with my daughter. We'll shoot basketball. We'll jump on the trampoline, whatever it is. But they know, like, Power Hour is theirs to do whatever they want with daddy. And they hold me accountable to, like, getting off my cell phone, shutting things down, and just going and do whatever. I've set up reports. Like, my kids get a monthly email that my wife facilitates where they get to score me on certain things. And I get a scorecard from my kids and my wife actually every month. So there's ways that you can create accountability. You can do this with friends. You can do it with family, with other people. Google Calendar can hold you accountable. Like, you plug in some type of daily commitment and that thing's going to pop up every day in your email, send you a little text reminder, like, all right, do this.
Yeah,
and, by the end of the day, like, I got to do that. And just your environment too, like, people spend so much time watching TV. It's like, all right, that is like an environment, and I get it. I watch some TV, but it's like, it's Shark Tank. It's the profit, like, I'm not just going to sit and veg on some just, potato chips of the mind kind of programming. It's like, what are you taking in? And that's your environment. And so, yeah, man, like, absolutely, like, applies to any area of life. And physical fitness, hiring a trainer, going to the gym versus like CrossFit. Like, there's all kinds of stuff where it applies.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted you on the show to talk about mindset in this whole initial episode in the series, because what I saw with what you're doing, where you're not just taking a group of guys and saying, this is how you do marketing to get motivated sellers to call you. This is how you handle the call. That's all necessary, yeah. But at the same time, most people aren't set up to handle running a business like that and changing their lives, getting out of their comfort zone. And what helps with that is what you're doing, where you're talking about spirituality, you're talking about physical changes to where you're keeping yourself healthy, changes in family life, being a better father, husband, all that kind of stuff. And I think it all goes into play with this. You're changing your life. You want to get in there and get freedom through real estate investing, but you're talking about changing your life in general. And I think all these things are necessary. And I think that's when people really see the biggest change and the biggest takeoff, biggest growth, is when they work on themselves. And in order to do that, it's not just focused on making money or working on that business. It's working on every bit of who you are. And that's why I wanted you on the show, is because you're talking about that. I love this thing with the wife and kids holding you accountable every month with a scorecard as a way to get their feedback. It's, you're working too much, or just having, keeping you in line and showing you where you need to work on yourself and your relationship with them. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And, several years ago, I caught myself going down that path where I didn't want to go, because I'd seen so many, before me go. And guys who are successful and they create success, and a lot of these guys are real estate investors, entrepreneurs, real estate kind of entrepreneurs, and just other guys in life and in my family that I've seen. And they go out and they create success, but it's generally like one pillar of success, as a business. And they become this one-dimensional guy, and then at the same time, while they're creating
financial success, they're really struggling the other three areas, which to me is faith, family, and fitness, like in their, just health and condition. They'll end up making money, but, sacrificing or even losing it all through divorce, through, health conditions, or just like spiritually detached with who they even are, what's going on in the world. And man, I was going down that path, man. Like marriage was kind of on the rocks, and I had become like just this workaholic dude. Like I'm still workaholic, but I was like a workaholic without investing and incorporating, those other areas into my life. And very long story short, man, I was like, I'm not going to do this. Like I'm not going down that path. Like how do I fix this? But even more so, not just how do I fix it, like how do I create ideal business, and how do I create, ideal situation in these other areas, become once again like spiritually connected, become an incredible husband and father, get, back and take control of my health and fitness. Like this drinking thing, I'm like, I got to deal with that. And I like I need to take care of my body. And since then, like, man, I've done Ironman. I have fought in MMA cage fights. I'm doing SEAL Fit right now. And I'm 40 with 3 knee surgeries, 2 ankle surgeries, all kinds of bumps and bruises. But it's this kind of system and approach we take that just causes us to kind of do more and challenge ourselves. But that was it, man. It was just like, I'm not going to settle for this. And so the funny thing that happened, it's not really funny. It's just like, it's a science, if you will. But whenever you come really, really connected with like who you are at your core, like in your heart, what are you really on this big ball of mud? Like, what are you here for? Like, what is your purpose? I get it. Like, we feel like, well, I'm in real estate. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I don't know if you were called to do real estate. That may be what you do to make money, and that's cool. But like, there's something bigger. So I just began to get really clear on what I wanted, where I was at and what I really wanted, like what I wanted to be in terms of like my spirituality, my faith. What did I want my family life to look like? What kind of husband at the end of the day, like when they lay me in the ground, like what's my legacy going to be with my wife, my children, and other people in my community and family and friends and loved ones? How was I going to treat my body? How long is this body going to last me? Like, am I going to burn it out by the time I'm like 50 or 60? Or I'm going to be one of those dudes. Like I met this guy, he's like 85 years old and he works out every day. And the dude had more energy than me. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I want to be like that dude. And I couldn't at the time because I was freaking drinking every night and this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I want to make money. Like, I enjoy doing real estate and making money. And so
is there
long story short, just put it all together, and like that's become my passion of kind of leading the way with like walking the walk, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, and helping men to kind of rise up and find their voice and their calling and their passion, and just step up and not just make money, which is part of it, but just have these 4 areas.
So how do you how do you recommend that people sit down and is there a process to determining the best, like what they're meant for and what their point of being here is? I mean, do you have a sort of process that you follow or have people follow?
So, great question. We do. That's what we cover at Breakthrough at the Beach is, helping. One of the things we cover is like helping men to get really clear. So the thing is, like, some people, it's different for everybody because people are coming from all different, places. And so if you take the 4 pillars of your faith, whatever that means to you, your faith, your family, your fitness, your finances, when you take each pillar, like what I found is generally like, people are coming in and they're pretty good, usually in one area or maybe even 2 areas. Like they're usually doing pretty good, but they're usually struggling in at least 1 or 2 areas. And sometimes like they're like really bad in one particular area. So, wherever you're at, it's like, just be okay with where you're at. Because that's part of this process is, I'm a big believer in like eliminating self-abuse. Like, stop beating yourself up for things that went bad in the past, things you didn't do, things you could have done better, blah, blah, blah. Like, all that kind of stuff is like, dude, like, it's done.
Right.
It's done. Like, where are you at right now? You're freaking bankrupt. You have no money. Your wife left you, all this kind of stuff. Cool. That's where you're at. So, the only time we're going to look back is so that we can learn from what you did and apply it to the future. And really, it's like, like the analogy of, like, if you're in a hole, like, stop digging. It's literally that. So wherever you come to this point in your life, it's like, all right, how do I get clear? How do I find my passion? How do I discover my passion? Like, my belief is you just start living it, like, right here and right now, whatever that is. And so it requires, like, the main requirement is just being committed to investing in that area daily. Okay, so, and for me, like, we call it F4, and it's a commitment, it's a code to, like, I'm going to invest into all 4 areas of my life every single day. Sometimes this is 5 minutes. Like, all right, so I'm gonna pray, and I'm gonna read this, book, and maybe journal about it. Cool. Like, that took you 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but you invested. I'm gonna shoot my wife a text, or my kids, like, this voice note, or I'm gonna, write a little posty stick-it note, I love you, and stick it on the mirror. Boom, done. Like, you invested. So you begin to just invest. Like, you stop digging the hole deeper, and you begin to invest. And whatever it is, like, you get clear with where you're at right now. Say, like, hey, this is what I want in my business. This is what I want, in my health. And you begin working towards that every day. And so the funny thing is you begin to invest daily, which what you're really doing is, like, you ultimately begin creating power, like confidence. You begin to build up deposits, into that bank. And so what I found is you begin to just take a step of faith, a leap of faith. It's just a step. Like, just take a step every day, and you begin to get more clear. You begin to become more certain. And to me, like, certainty and clarity is power. And as you begin to invest, you begin to take action rather than digging that hole deeper. Your horizon, things that you begin to see, begin to expand and get bigger. And that's, to answer your question, like, that's where it all starts. You're probably not going to have this big grand vision of, slinging down millions of dollars in real estate if you're bankrupt and you're, broke and living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and can hardly afford ramen noodles, like, that's okay. But you start with where you're at, and, like, the first goal is just to get out of that apartment and have a steak dinner once a week or whatever. And you start with that, and you grow and you build upon it. And that's totally cool, but that's where it all starts, is just being open and honest and real and raw with where you're at, and just beginning to dream a little bit, like, this is what I really want here. And then committing to do the work that's required every single day. But what I've found is, like, this is the thing that happens is just by making that commitment. And as, these men that I'm leading, like, as they truly begin to commit and they step up, it doesn't happen overnight. 60, 90 days later, like, things start to come together to where when they're real connected on their purpose, they're investing in their loved ones and relationships. They're taking care of, health and fitness, and getting into working out, eating just a little bit healthier, doing things like that. Dude, like, you show up in the business world so much more powerful. Like, and I say powerful, like, very clear on what you want, which means, like, you filter out things like, no, dude, I'm not even wasting my time with that. Because there's so many opportunities in real estate. I see people, like, they're a jack of all trades, a master of none. And they're like, oh, a squirrel, and they're chasing all the stuff all over the place, but they're not building anything. But when you take that time to connect in those areas, dude, like, you make more money because you were more certain and more clear coming into the business world. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I'm seeing this happen over and over again. And that's what I live and what I lead and what I believe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely necessary, and that's why I wanted you to be on the show to help people, because even successful investors that have been doing this for a while, some of them could even benefit from hearing that message because they might be on that path, like you were talking about. Are you there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. They might be in that position where you were talking about, where you're just working, but other areas of your life are sort of falling apart. So, for new people, like start out this way, and then for people that maybe were lacking in some of these areas, if you, by improving yourself in these other areas, you're going to improve your life and improve everything, which is going to boost all four, pillars that you were talking about. 4 pillars of success being the business, family, faith, fitness. So that's really, really important. And now, as far as like mindset goes, though, I mean, for people maybe starting out that have negative, negative mindset or a negative outlook, or maybe limiting beliefs and things like that. I mean, what do you have to say for people that struggle with those kinds of things?
So, all right. So, great question once again. And just to jump back for a second, this training and this type of mindset stuff is not just for people who are struggling and getting started. More so, like, this is the good to great conversation. A lot of times, like, I find guys who are doing pretty good. Like, they're doing pretty good. Like, marriage is pretty good. Like, relationship with my kids, pretty good. I'm okay physically, and my business is pretty good. Man, to me, like, good is the enemy of great. And I don't just say that, like, I take that to the heart. Like, good is the enemy of great. And so the problem that happens, like, when guys are living like this good life, like, you're essentially living on a plateau. Generally, like, these were guys who are coasting, and I see this happen time and time again because I've done it myself. Like, it's human nature. You reach like a certain level, like, you take your foot off the gas and you kind of coast a little bit, and the only thing, man, is like that drift is inevitable. Like, you kind of lose your edge a little bit, and it's like Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas, man. Like, Tyson, like, he lost the edge, and the dude got knocked out, man, because he lost the edge. So guys get on a plateau, and as we know, like, you keep going on a plateau, like, it's going to go down, not up. So it's very important to create this kind of game in your life to keep moving up, like, keep moving up and not be satisfied with where you're at. Like, how can I grow? How can I expand? How can I take things to the next level? And so all that is a mindset, and it intertwines with goal setting. Like, so I don't set, like, I visualize and I'll write down kind of when I'm taking my notes and, like, creating, like, what I'm going to do this year. But that's only, like, just for a second. And I back it up, and I'm like, what am I going to do in the first 90 days? And I create 30 and 60 and 90-day checkpoints for me, because what happens is, like, if I'm looking way too off in the distant future, it allows me to kind of take it easy. I'm like, I didn't really push towards this year goal, but it's only January, and then February comes to March. Well, it's just a quarter. I still have 3 quarters left. So we get real aggressive with goal setting. Like, we force that accountability. That's what I do with my group. It's like, all right, we have weekly reports. It's like, send in your reports. Like, how did you show up this week? All areas of life, not just business. And what are your plans for this week? So constant repetition and just reminders of what it is that you're working towards, to me, is what kind of drives my mindset, if you will. And it all starts with clarity and just being open, honest with myself. Like, if I find myself not pushing to hit targets each week, like, that's where I'm like, all right, I need to take a step back and get clear again, because maybe I don't actually want this. Because we actually, like, we go after what we typically want. And what I see people talk about is like, oh, I really want this. Like, I really want, to have this, multi-million-dollar in business and real estate. And I'm like, okay, so is there just a chance that what you really want is to go home at night and watch 3 hours of TV and, eat pizza and drink beer? Because that's what you're doing. So I honestly got to feel like you want that more than you actually want to create this real estate business.
Yeah,
so
don't
sometimes
kid yourself, right?
Huh?
Yeah, don't kid yourself.
Yeah. So that's like, sometimes I'm like, all right, so like I didn't hit this, like I wasn't as aggressive as I should have been on this particular item this week. So it causes me to step back. I'm like, do I really want that, or did I just write it down because it sounds cool? And so that's kind of the way that I force, mindset and accountability. And then another little trick, little thing that I do of, tricking my mind, because that's what a lot of this is just like tricking our minds and changing these stories that we've built within that limit us. Like I've created names with some of the targets that I'm going out to get. So for example, my wife, we have 4 kids, and my wife wants to adopt. I want to adopt as well. But like I'm right now, it's like, all right, so like I want to adopt, but here's what I want to make that happen in terms of, like, we have a part-time nanny. I'm like, I want a full-time nanny. Like, I don't want to sacrifice on, the house being picked up and all these other things. Like, with another kid, I want to be able to be present with them and give time and attention, but not sacrifice, like, there's dirty clothes all over the place, my wife's stressed out. I'm like, I want to do this the right way.
Right.
So with certain targets, like, you can name them. There's like, operation adoption. Like, you can name your goals and your challenges, and you give them a bigger purpose, to kind of fuel that fire. Because a lot of times, like, if you're just chasing money, like if it's a money goal, like, to me, that doesn't really excite me as much. So you reward yourself with trips, goals, things like that, or just giving, like, how can I give back to a bigger purpose? So those are some of the things that drive you, and that's why I like to connect the other areas of life with business, because for me, like, I've just found, like, pursuing money is not fulfilling. It's not as fulfilling as I thought it was going to be when I first started. I'm like, oh, I'll just make all this money, like, everything's going to be great. Didn't really work out that way. Making money and then having another purpose behind it, like, that's badass. Like, that's what it's all about. And so that's kind of ties into mindset stuff.
Right. So if I'm hearing you right, so it's more about, being clear on who you are, what you want, drives a better mindset to be able to overcome obstacles and things, because it's something that you feel you want more than going home, watching TV for 3 hours, eating pizza and drinking beer. And so that sort of takes care of itself, right? I mean, you'll overcome a lot of those things. Maybe you've got to work on some self-improvement stuff, get some books, audio tapes, podcasts. Did I just say audio tapes, like cassette tapes? But but you know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah. My dad probably did some of those. So
yeah. Yeah, we're kind of dating ourselves. Like, some of these people listening might not even know what that actually is.
Yeah, man, you never know. Like, I talked to guys who didn't know what Audible was. I'm like, that's cool, man. It's like cassette tapes on, in 2016, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, to answer your question, yes, man. Like, it sounds so simple. But at the root of it is like, what do you want? Like, really, what do you want? Like, be honest, not what society thinks you should have, or what you think society thinks, like, that you should have, or what your friends or your family, like, what do you want? Like, get super clear on it. Because, like, if you look at other entrepreneurs, like the 1%ers of entrepreneurs, like guys who just went out and created massive success. You can look at politicians, social leaders, like the Martin Luther Kings and Mother Teresa's of the world. Like, it wasn't like that they were, any smarter than anybody else necessarily. It was just like they were really clear on what they wanted to accomplish. Like, I'm here for this purpose, this mission, and they just took a daily action on it. So what I've seen play out is people aren't clear what they want. So they allow other people, other organizations that are clear to rob them of their time. And that's why most people fall into the job trap, is because they don't know what they want. Like, they know they want to pay their bills and they want a paycheck, and that's as clear as they get. And so they end up in this job that they hate and that they're miserable a lot of times. And it's just because they weren't clear on what they really wanted. Now, that company and that organization was very clear on what they wanted. So they end up using that person as, a widget to help them accomplish their goals. And so it's kind of really a battle of like who can get the clearest on what they want. And if you just start there and take daily action, do the work every day, like things begin to happen, man. Like things begin to happen.
No, I couldn't agree more. It's the whole make a plan for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to end up a part of somebody else's plan.
Mm-hmm.
And what Jim Rohn says, what do you think they have planned for you? And then the answer is not much, right? Because it's their plan, But I mean, that's pretty empowering, though, realizing that. And really, it does seem simple, like you said. But how many people do it? And it's like, I guess it's sort of like Brendan Burchard says, it's maybe common sense, but not common practice.
Yep.
People
Absolutely.
think that they know it, but who lives it? Who does it? Who takes... And isn't it incredible, though? How many people haven't, or it doesn't seem at least like they have, maybe taken the hour to go somewhere quiet off by themselves and really start to think and look inside of themselves and say, look at where I'm at, where do I want to be? Maybe because it's fear or something, to acknowledge that you didn't accomplish a lot of things that maybe you hoped you would. But like you said, that's the past. Forget about it.
Yeah. And so just taking that time, I recently went on a 24-hour meditation retreat. No cell phones, no computers, like nothing, just out in the wilderness. And it was a little bit scary, man. I'm not gonna lie. But a lot of just insights came to me during that time. And you mentioned people can talk about it or you can kind of be about it kind of thing. And for me, it's like you can see, who's living a life like this, at least in one area of their life, if not all areas of their life, by the results that are produced. All boils down to results. And I'm a Christian, and Jesus said, "Ye shall know them by their fruits." And so for me, it's like, dude, don't tell me you've been doing this, and that, because I know that those actions produce a result when you're doing them the right way. Maybe you're doing them halfway, maybe you're doing partially, maybe you're doing them every other day, but whenever you're doing the work, and you're playing all in, you're going to produce fruit. So people either are producing results or they're not. And that's really just a blunt way to look at it. And that's I got to look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, damn, dude, you bombed big time. And I'm like, all right, honest with myself, I didn't really play all in on that. I was halfway in. I didn't get the results I wanted. That's all on me. So do I really want that? Yeah, I do. All right, I'm gonna roll up my sleeves and I'm gonna produce some fruit in this area. So me, it really comes down to seeing what people are creating and producing, not just talking about it. Save the talk, save the talk, and just create results. Period.
Yeah, that's it, really. Yeah. It's easy to talk and act like you're super excited about doing something, but if you're not doing it, how excited are you really? Are you kidding yourself? And
Exactly.
be honest with yourself. And yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so I think this pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover, and I hope everybody, if they don't feel like they got clear on what the message was there with getting clear on who you are, what you want, what you're doing, being honest with yourself, take the time to listen back through this episode, because getting the foundation right, getting the mindset right, along with skill set, and then, like Brant talked about, environment, accountability, you should strive to set those things up in the beginning. And it doesn't have to be something where you have to wait till you can join some big mastermind group or something like that. Start small with your family, work on that, work on those things. But man, take some time to go off somewhere quiet, somewhere you don't normally go, or something where you're away from all distractions, and really just look at where you are and where you want to be, and think through that. And I talk about on the blog about doing your perfect average day, which I heard from somebody somewhere, but sitting and thinking through, what would your perfect average day look like? And it's average because it's got to be something that you could really honestly do all the time and be happy with, not just go out to casinos and on a cruise or something. I mean, that's not, you wouldn't be happy doing that all the time. So, I mean, maybe you would, but like every single day, I don't think so. So think through, what does your perfect average day look like, from when you wake up, where you are, who you're with, what you're doing throughout the day. And then I think that's a way of helping clarify too what you really want. And then focus on working on all your relationships. And like Brant talked about, making a commitment for daily work on all of it, no matter how small, but taking time to do that, which will then also allow you to reflect on each day and what you've done, to see where you are and hold yourself accountable along with other people. So I really like too, Brant, like when you talked about the, creating names for target goals, because it's a little bit more fun than saying, what the actual goal is, but to have that name for it, like it's some sort of, mission that you're on or something.
Yeah, because a lot of guys, I've seen guys like fade out, and I'm like, dude, what's going on here, man? Like, you're not doing the work, like you're not going to hit this target. And that they're not like excited about that thing. I'm like, cool, I get it. Like, there's certain aspects of my business that I love. There's some that I don't love. But when we can attach a bigger purpose, a bigger why to what it is that we're doing, then that will drive us. And so that's one of the things I've came up with in the last year, is like, let me create like a mission. Like, what is the mission? What is the purpose for this? And so my wife and I want to adopt by the end of this year. We want to begin that process. I'm like, cool, like I'm down with that. Like I want to be like 100% excited. So here's the things that I want to accomplish. Some financially, some things we got to put together in the house with the nanny, and our kids are homeschooled. There's like a lot of chaos, man. 4 kids, homeschooling, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, cool. Here's the things that I want to make happen so that we can do this, because I do want to make it happen, but I want it to do like what I'm excited about. And so if you can attach like that bigger purpose or why, it will carry you through some of the rough stuff that comes up along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll go ahead and wrap up here. And basically, we're going to have Brant's sent me over a rehab estimator, because I know a lot of people struggle with that. So that's part of the skill set. But you can get that rehab estimator PDF at FlippingJunkie.com/17, which will also have the show notes from this episode, where you can download the episode if you want and all that kind of stuff. I'm also going to have that 4 Pillars of Power graphic that Brant was kind enough to have created and sent over for all you guys to get a hold of. And Brant, how can people best reach you? Anybody listening out there that wants to maybe connect with you or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Easiest thing to do is just go to BrantPhillips.com. BrantPhillips.com. There's a little contact me area. And that's the best thing to do. If they're interested in, some of the other things that we talked about, they can go to breakthroughatthebeach.com, breakthroughatthebeach.com, and they'll get some more information about, some of these concepts and things that you and I talked about.
Yeah, people should definitely go there, check out the videos and stuff that you've got. They're really well done, and, show, a lot of the things that got me wanting to get you on the show to talk about this most important part of foundation and mindset. But on the show notes page at FlippingJunkie.com/17, I also have links to all those websites and things that Brant has. So if you find that you're not spelling it right or something like that, you can always go there to find all the links to his websites. And I thought I had a lot of websites. Brant, you've got a lot of websites, man.
I got a few.
But anyway, I'll have all those on there, and once again, I really appreciate you being on the show. I think it was an awesome episode to begin this series.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me on, and I've enjoyed our time together, man.
Great. We'll definitely have to keep in touch.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, have a good one, Brant.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that episode. We had a lot of great stuff. Next week, we will have episode from Marcus Maloney about setting goals. It's an awesome show, getting into the nitty-gritty and really the proper way to set smart goals. So you'll definitely want to check back next week for that, and we'll be continuing with the Flipping Houses series. If you want to reach out and leave some comments or have any suggestions or anything like that, please go to facebook.com/FlippingJunkie, and you can do that there. And we'll be sharing some more things also about some of the other things that we do with Flipping Junkie, and then also our real estate investor websites at leadpropeller.com, and then our real estate investor software system. It's a CRM system that we have at reimobile.com. So if you didn't know about those, just take a minute to check those out. Really would appreciate it if you did. And for this house flipping series, be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Be greatly appreciated. So thanks again for joining us and listening in, and see you next week.